All right, we're going to be talking about how to make a fraction into a percent into a fraction, decimal into a percent, going back and forth. You're going to probably think about why am I playing this song about move it, and the hint's going to come up here real soon. Okay, so let's get into the lesson here. There's a couple of words right here that we're just going to try to focus on right here. Key word is when we're dealing with the fraction, the top part of it is going to be the numerator. So you're going to want to divide the numerator by the denominator. You're going to get decimal. You can do this with or without a calculator. Once you're done with that, you're going to have to move, let me see, move it, move it. Oh, that's why that song was on. Move it 2 times to the right. That's the exact same thing as multiplying by 100. So a lot of times you've done this on a calculator. You've divided 21 by 30, and then you multiply by 100 and you get your percent. So an example, this top number just falls right into the box here. Just imagine it's getting cut down. You're going to put the 30 on the outside. With a little bit of time, you're going to get this answer of 7 tenths, 70 hundredths, regardless of what you get. And then all you have to do is multiply that by 100, and you should get the answer. The first one is 70%. Some students might reduce that fraction, but just to go into a quick process, I will go right 21 divided by 30 times 100. So again, we got to move it, move it. Take the top number, which is numerator, put it inside the box. Denominator outside the box becomes the divisor. You're going to do some division. Make sure you're carrying that decimal straight up because 15 doesn't go into 8, it does go into 80. And you're going to get a repeating decimal. We'll take this repeating decimal, multiply it by 100. Um, we got that move it, move it. So let me take one of these points right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to the right. That's the same thing as multiply by 100. And I get 53, and I like to go to the hundredths percent. So numerator divided by denominator. Calculator is going to be a little bit quicker, but old school method is actually do the division. And then you just got to multiply by 100. So easy step right here is just remember to move it, move it. A little bit opposite right on this one right here is we're trying to make a percent into a decimal because a lot of times we're going to be using equations. So again, move it, move it. You're going to be moving it 2 times. This is going to be to the left. And the way I think of that is I'm going from a percent to a decimal. And so I'm kind of going backwards in the alphabet, because P is here and D is way over there. So that's why I've got to move it to the left. So if you're a visual type of person, I'll write the 134 down. Your decimal's at the end. I have to move it twice. So you can get 1 and 34 hundredths. On 9%, again, decimal's at the end. I have to move it, move it. Notice there's a space missing there. So I'm going to put a 0 in front of there. So you can get 9 hundredths. Obviously, 9 tenths is a little bit different. On this one, this is like sales tax sometimes. You're going to be moving the decimal over twice. Okay, not the number, but the decimal. I'm going to move it over once, twice. I have a gap in there, so I'm going to put a 0. Now, interest rates were great a long time ago, way back in the 80s. Now the interest rates are not great. Sometimes you might get a 0.5% on an interest rate, which is really not much of a difference. We're going to take the decimal, we'll put it here. We're going to move it 2 times to the left. 1, 2. I have to remember that there are 2 places to fill in. So I'm going to have 5 thousandths as a decimal. So remember that song, move it, move it. Just always kind of think about them, moving it to the left on this one. Next that we're going to talk about quickly is we're going to write a fraction as, write a percent as a fraction in lowest terms. Easy thing is this one, which is just an easy one where there's no decimals. I just put the top number over 100. Percent means of 100. 85 over 100 reduces to 17 over 20. There's several tricks on this one, dividing by 5 on the top and the bottom, or using your calculator. Occasionally, you're going to have numbers that are larger than 100%. You're still going to put 125 over 100. There's a couple of ways that you can write this answer. Some students might divide by 25 and you get 5 over 4. Some people might make it a mixed number, 1 and 1/4. It depends what I'm doing. If I'm using it in an equation, sometimes I'm just going to keep it as 5/4.
Next, there's a couple ways to do this one. This one right here, you might want to make it a whole number. You multiply the top by 10, the bottom by 10. Some people will move it, where they move the decimal over twice, and they get 128 thousandths. And then what they'll do is they'll just take 128 over 1,000, and they'll reduce it. And I'll leave that for you to do, because I'm going to move on to the next one. The same here on this one is they might move the decimal twice, and they're going to get 3,224. And so what they'll do is just put 3,224 over this time 10,000. I'm going to do a really quick version if you don't like that method. This goes into using your algebra skills. You put your percent over 100. To make this top number a whole number, I have to multiply by a power of 10. Well, the power of 10 I'm going to choose is 10. Why did I choose 10? Because that's going to move the decimal over once, and that's going to give me 128 over 1,000. So you've got more than one way to do this example. Next important thing that I tell my students is you should be able to do 10% in your head. It's very good for estimation, very good for tips, sales. And on this time, what's basically happening is you're multiplying. You're going to learn later is you're taking 134 and you're multiplying it by zero point 0.1. If you're familiar with the powers of 10, is basically what you're doing is you're dividing by 10. You're moving the decimal over once. So hopefully you can do this in mental math. You got 134 decimals at the end. Move the decimal over just once. You just got to move it. Not to move it, just to move it. And so it's going to be $13.40. If you can do the math in your head, all you got to do is double this. And so what I will do is I will put a decimal here, and it's $26.80. Real quick on this one, 5820. I take my decimal, which is right here. I'm going to move it over once to the left. I'm going to get $5.82. If I need to double that, I'm going to get this number right here. Let me think, where was that decimal? Well, it's going to be right here. It's $5.82 doubled is $11.64. This also works good for if you're doing commission on maybe you have a sales of 18,925. You're going to get 10% of this. Just move it once. You're going to get 1,892.5. Okay, try the last one real quick. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
And just remember, this song, next time you hear it, might remind you about moving the decimal to the right and to the left. If you also have some time, these are some of the fractions that you might want to use in memorization. Notice these are going to be ones that you're going to see quite often. And there's some tricks down here with the repeating. On the back here, I have some of the answers here for you. I've got that every eighth is up by 12.5%. Every fifth is up by 20%. You've got your 1/6, which we have the repeating decimals that you might want to take a look at there. And also with 9, what you're going to notice is basically your numerator is repeating. So you see that. With when you're dividing by 11, your numerator is going to be a multiple of 9. So you're just going to multiply by 9. So 711, I'm going to take 7 times 9. I get 63. And so it's going to be 60 hundredths. Just think about 8 out of 11. Multiply that top number by 9. And what do you get? You get 72. Well, it's going to be a decimal. It's going to be repeating. So it's going to be 72 and 72 hundredths. So here are some shortcuts. These are a lot of fractions that you will see in classrooms. You'll also see at sports. Good luck with it. Hopefully this was helpful.